Josh, we're going to go ahead and get started.
All right, sounds good. You guys can hear me fine? All righty. All right then, hello everyone. My name is Joshua Lacayo, and today I will be presenting my master's project on role addressing methods. My project set out to answer the following question. What is a practical approach to role addressing for communities that lack this information? My project objective is to recommend a practical approach to role addressing that can be implemented by communities that currently lack this type of location management. So let's start by discussing what role addressing is. Role addressing is the process in which local government entities designate addresses to properties within their community that currently do not have one assigned. You might be asking yourself, so why is role addressing important? Businesses and residential structures within rural areas that do not have an authoritatively assigned address can make emergency response to an incident quite difficult. By assigning an address to an inhabitable structure and maintaining it within a GIS database, local area governments can better help their emergency responders with incident management. Role addressing also makes it easier for third-party services such as delivery companies to locate your property. Now, before a role addressing methodology is chosen, street name and numbering guidelines must be established so that the overall addressing process will flow better. Of course, there are various types of street name and numbering practices, so that all of you might have a better understanding of what this kind of information entails, I will list off a few. When assigning street names and numbers, you should always start from a logical point of origin. This can be the center of a town or where a rural road intersects with a major road. Numbering should be chronological, and counties should consider a numeric sequence that is east to west and south to north. Additional guidelines include assigning odd numbers to the left side of the street and even numbers to the right side. And also, address numbers should be designated to all inhabitable structures and not to empty lots and/or parcels. What makes these guidelines so important is that they are essential in assigning role addresses and will be used throughout the entire process. Now, let's discuss what the different types of role addressing methods are. First method I will be talking about is grid addressing. This method is very common in rural areas where roads follow section lines. A grid origin is determined usually in one corner of a county or town. Then assigned addresses increase by a predetermined amount, such as 100, 1,000, etc., and are designated per grid mile. Here's a visual example of grid addressing. Block addressing is more common in cities, towns, and other municipalities. Even and odd, as well as logical numeric sequencing rules apply as mentioned previously. Blocks will increase by predetermined intervals amounts, such as 100 or 1,000 at each road intersection. Here's an example, a visual example of block addressing. The third and final method is equal interval addressing. This method is also called the mile marker approach and is best suited for rural areas that have irregular road networks. Every road begins at 1 and increases at a standard interval per mile of roadway. Just like in block addressing, even, odd, and logical numeric sequencing rules do apply. The assigned address number will indicate the distance from the road's origin. And here's a visual example of equal interval addressing. It should be noted that each of these addressing methodologies will accomplish the same task of rural addressing based on a nearby road network data. But since road layouts can vary dramatically, certain addressing methods should be considered more appropriate than others for specific types of areas. Now I will discuss the use of reverse geocoding and how it relates to rural addressing by demonstrating whether the use of this geoprocessing tool makes the overall process of rural addressing easier or more difficult. So what exactly is reverse geocoding? Reverse geocoding involves taking latitude and longitude coordinates and interpolating this data with an address locator to map address points based on address ranges assigned to a nearby road network by either grid, block, or equal interval addressing. The process of reverse geocoding shares the same mechanics as geocoding itself, but is instead conducted in reverse. Whereas reverse geocoding uses geographic coordinates to map an address location, geocoding involves interpolating spatial reference data to map geographic coordinates. It should be noted that when performing a reverse geocode operation, the geocoder is interpolating a location for the address and may not return a precise address. Instead, the reverse geocoding process will automatically estimate and assign an address in a manner that makes it especially more of an advanced geoprocessing tool that can be used to accompany block, grid, and/or equal interval addressing. So what does the process of reverse geocoding entail? Let's discuss that. First, you should prepare your reference data. Properly preparing reference data is an important step and considering that it is a pivotal element of an address locator. Incomplete, error-ridden, or missing reference data will undoubtedly result in matching errors and lead to a lower quality of results. Next, you will create an address locator, either in ArcMap or in ArcCatalog. For the sake of time, I've chosen not to speak on each step in the process, but rather have taken some screenshots of what the process looks like in regards to reverse geocoding, or in regards to setting up an address locator. After an address locator has been created, you can perform a reverse geocoding operation. Once again, each of the following slides display screenshots of the reverse geocoding process. So for this section of my project, I created an address locator and ran the reverse geocoding operation against reference data I obtained from Graham County. The geocoder successfully interpolated the geographic coordinates from the designated feature class against the road network data to produce street addresses at each point on the map. As previously mentioned earlier in this presentation, the integrity of reference data is extremely important as it has a direct influence on the geoprocessing results. Thus, it should go without saying that the managing of reference data is essential to ensuring lower error results. Of course, various kinds of errors can and will happen. The following are known errors associated with the reverse geocoding process. A majority of problems facing the use of reverse geocoding are primarily related to the integrity of the reference data. The more accurate and up-to-date the reference data is, the more precise your reverse geocoding results will be, and fewer errors will be encountered. So in conclusion, I felt that there is no definitive methodology that can be used to rule address. Each of the methodologies I discussed are uniquely designed to be used at a variety of rule settings, and since no two towns are alike, the methodology one rule area uses may or may not be applicable to another. But a best practice that should be considered in any rural community considering in regards to address assessment should be the establishment of guidelines and procedures for street names and numbers. This practice will help considerably in selecting one of the three methodologies, as each offers their own unique style of addressing. In terms of geoprocessing tools that will help in the overall process of rural addressing, I would most definitely recommend the use of reverse geocoding. This geoprocessing tool offers a more concise technique to assign addresses based on its use of geographic coordinates obtained from reference data sets. Of course, it is not perfect and will not always work the way you want it to. As mentioned earlier, the integrity of reference data is extremely important. In order to avoid problems with reverse geocoding, communities would be wise to assemble a rural addressing ordinance that establishes a proper guidelines and procedures for street names and numbers, as well as conducts proper reference data preparation. If such steps are taken, then reverse geocoding will most definitely benefit the way a rural community assigns addresses and helps their local emergency responders find homes or businesses that are experiencing an emergency. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions online? All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
All right. We have one last presentation. Michael, do you have any announcements before we get going with the last one?
No, I don't think so. Just look out for an email from me and Iris for the presenters in the next couple of days with some feedback on your presentations, and then you'll be receiving feedback about your paper and your final grade for the course within about a week. So that's the only announcement I have.
All right, and the announcement that I have is, hold on a second. The announcement that I have is about kind of the next steps of this process. And so as each of the previous presenters has seen, those that have presented before today, basically what happens is that Michael will send out feedback and comments to each of you. Excuse me. And then if you have any comments on those things, let us know. Within the next 7 to 10 days, you'll then be receiving specific feedback on your papers and presentations from me specifically. And if you have any questions about those things, let me know, or let Michael know. You may also see in those feedback, or in that feedback, kind of other resources or ideas for how to kind of distribute to a larger audience your information. If you have any questions about what those are, how to make the connection between where you are and kind of what we're recommending, just let one of us know. And then lastly, the University of Arizona does publish the papers to a library repository. And so we'll be sending out a form that will indicate or help to guide you through the process for publishing your reports to the library repository. It's completely voluntary. You don't have to. There's no fee that's associated with it that there is with other degree programs. All right, and if you have any issues,